Things weren't quite as they ought to be according to Vuvu. I mean, things were bad. Lunga absolutely wanted nothing to do with her. He blocked her number. He didn't answer any of her calls, her texts. He was through. And as unfair as it was when him and Andile met up, yes, they had it out. They fought. And then they kept it moving. But with Vuvu, no. Nah, I'm not doing that. And Priya was the same. She meant every word she said to Yaya over lunch. I am not getting burned twice. In fact, baby girl went back to Lagos to rectify everything. She needed them to know that she had absolutely no idea and that she valued their relationships, their friendships. And if she had even caught wind of what Vuvu was doing, she would have shut it down. So for her, it was like, no. And then, of course, math was just not adding up. Yes, Vuvu has this beauty bar. Yes, it's still bringing in money. Yes, it's still successful. But Lunga was taking care of her. She didn't have to worry about money. She wasn't on a budget when she was with him. He was taking care of her. But now, she was on her own. She was in this rut and she really wanted to get out of it. You know, like when you can feel you're just not okay. You're not okay. And you wake up sad, you go to bed sad, you're all over the place. That's where she was. And she was like, I need to get out of this quick. I need an upper. I need to get out of this quick. And so she texted Yaya one word. Mozambique. Now listen, Yaya did not need any convincing. She was like, when? That Saturday, they were in Maputo. That night, they were at South Beach for Pasada night. A local experience that was next level. There was dancing, there was good food, always good food. There was drinks. I mean, they were having a good time. And this was the first time in a really long time Vuvu was not thinking about everything that was going on. She was just having a good time. Now, one thing about Vuvu and Yaya, they know each other. And especially when they're on a trip, they understand the assignment. They're like, listen, we are here for a good time. And whatever we need to do to make it happen, we do it. If you need to take one for the team, you take it for the team. And so they were here with each other. They got it. They were like, let's do what we need to. Now, at the restaurant that evening was a table with a group of guys. There's always that table with guys. And they noticed these foreign girls, and these girls noticed them. Vuvu and Yaya were looking at each other like, it's them. It's absolutely them. Now you do what you need to do. Eventually, those guys came over, introduced themselves, offered some shots, and they were like, yes, of course, let's go, let's enjoy. They were here, glasses up, dancing, doing what, I mean, let me tell you, nobody was going to stop them that night. They were in for everything that city had to offer. They were in for it. In for it. No one was going to stop them. Usually in dynamics like this, there's always those two people who are feeling each other the most. And in this situation, it just so happened to be Joao and Yaya. Those two were all over each other unapologetically. You see, Pasada night at South Beach was going all the way off. They were having an amazing time, and Joao wasn't trying to waste any of it. He asked them if they were interested in going with him to a private island. Now you guys know what I'm going to say. You know what their answer was. You know. The proposition was so tempting, But the liquor in their systems made it irresistible. They were in the air. They were on the way to that island. You know, they were gone. The three of them in that plane, gone. Now, the ride was short, but still very awkward, and not for the reasons you may think. Not because Yaya and Joao were all over each other, not even because, for all intents and purposes, they were strangers, but because this was not a dynamic Vuvu was used to. She was used to being the girl in the group who always got her first choice when it came to the guys. She was the one who was used to getting all the attention and being the first pick. Like, she was that girl. So them being on this private plane because of Yaya, okay. So they got to the island and they were immediately whisked away to some villa in some beautiful resort. And that's where they met Mandinho. Mandinho introduced himself to the ladies. There was something very reserved about him, somewhat mysterious. He spoke, but not much. That evening, they went for dinner, and Vuvu couldn't quite put her finger on the type of person he was. She just couldn't. Like I said, he didn't speak much. They enjoyed some good seafood and a bottle of red wine, or 2 or 3. And so when they got back to the villa, this time Vuvu was the one who disappeared with Mandinho. The following morning, she woke up to an empty bed, the sunlight pouring into the room, the sound of ocean water, all of it. But she was alone. She turned over to find a stack of dollars on the side table, but no Mandinho. Now, because of how much she had been drinking, she was in and out of sleep. Eventually, she woke up when Yaya walked into the room and was like, "Baby girl, you need to wake up, we're leaving." Now, this was a bit confusing because when Joao spoke to them about coming to this private island, he said they were going to be here for a couple of days. But okay, let's go. She walked out and still no Mandinho, but she wasn't about to ask. She wasn't about to make it a big deal. And so they got back in the plane and left. It was on the flight back to Maputo when Joao explained that Mandinho had to leave because of some business emergency, this, that, and the other. And truth be told, Vuvu didn't really care. She wasn't coming here to fall in love or any of that. No, she was here to have some fun. And she just so happened to catch a bag. Also, his explanation just sounded so insincere. Like, homeboy, if you're gonna lie, at least make it a good one. At least make it a good one. Just keep everything. Keep it. I don't need to know. Keep it. Let him have done what he did and just got up and leave. We don't need to speak about it anymore. They got back to Maputo and they decided that night they were just going to stay in. Vuvu and Yaya went back to their hotel and they had an early night. But Joao wasn't letting them go that easy. He called them the next day and asked them if he could take them to town to some local restaurant because he wanted them to taste like good meat. And they went. Now, this particular date would not have been significant enough to mention, except it was this date that was set in motion as a consequence of what Vuvu and Mandinho got up to. After enjoying that meat, they were on the way back to the car when they passed the local drunk. I mean, this woman was in rags. She even smelt like liquor. As she was passing them, she threw her head back and started to gasp as if she had been drowning or underwater. She looked Vuvu straight or rather dead in the eyes, and started shouting. I mean shouting. She let out this wail that was like, what is going on here? And then she was silenced and she told Vuvu, he took something from you. He took something from you and you better get it back. You better get it back. But how when you're still so fast asleep? Vuvu didn't know what to make of it, but this encounter made her feel really, really awkward. In fact, let me go back a bit. When they were on the plane ride back to Maputo, Vuvu could feel that something was not quite right. She didn't know how to explain it because she hadn't felt this way before, but she could feel it. She could feel something was not right. And to describe it would be to say anxiety, just this uneasy feeling, this intense gloom and doom type of feeling. You're just uncomfortable. You don't know what it is, but you're not feeling good. That same feeling was now back. She was absolutely feeling it and she just wanted to get out of there. And this woman kept on speaking at her, not to her, at her, letting her know that you have no idea what has just happened. It was then Joao quickly grabbed both of them and took them to the car. But they both knew something was up. That look in that woman's eyes was enough to convince them that she was seeing something. Was she prophesying? I don't know. But she was seeing something. She was seeing far beyond what they could see, and she was warning them. And what was very clear was that Joao didn't want this interaction to continue. And so indeed, they left. Now, when they got back to the hotel, Vuvu was just like, I want to rest. I want to go to bed. So she poured herself another glass of wine, got back into bed, and tried to relax. I mean, she was not feeling good. She was just feeling way too anxious. Now, that girl's trip to Mozambique was the welcome distraction they needed. Or so she thought, because that feeling was very temporary. Whatever it is she took while she was in Mozambique, she brought it back home with her. That anxiety, that uneasy feeling, she was sitting with it in her belly. Now, if this story is in any way making you feel uneasy and uncomfortable, I suggest you stop here because it's about to take a turn. They got back to Joburg and it was business as usual. Vuvu was out doing her thing. She was invited to an influencer's dinner and she was there. This was a great opportunity to get out of the house, back to business, but most importantly to network and get good content. And so she was there. She went, she enjoyed it, she had her laughs, she met the people she wanted to meet, and she went home. Baby girl was not in the mood for anything or anyone. She was most certainly not going to be answering any calls she had no business answering. She was not going any place she had no business going to. She went straight home. At about 3:20 a.m., she woke up from a terrible nightmare. A vicious, you know those nightmares where it just feels so real. Your heart is thumping. You are sweating. You're shaky. You are shaken up because whatever that was, spiritual or not, it just didn't feel good. That's where she is. She is shaken. She sits up and she tries to calm herself down. She's not used to this. She's not used to this. What is going on? What is this? She eventually goes to the kitchen and grabs herself a drink. She takes a couple of sips, lays back down, and tries to settle. Eventually, she falls asleep again. And then she's up. Suddenly, she is having flashbacks of the night she spent with Mandinyu. She is remembering a slither of light coming in from outside, the moonlight in that room. She's remembering him picking her up, kissing her, laying her on the bed, rubbing all over her body, doing all sorts of things. And she remembers she was enjoying it. She was kissing him back. She was all over his body too. They were doing some things. And then she caught a glimpse of something. Oh, because for a second, those look like the eyes of a serpent.